All right, here's this week's On This Day. What happened on October 14th, 1884? Well, you see George Eastman here. We learned about him already with, things happening and inventions at the time. Well, he received a patent. That was a vocabulary word. Hope you remember that. For his new paper strip photographic film. So many people today may not have even seen film. Ask your parents what it was like loading film into a camera. And this is the early version of that. But before it was made out of the materials that it was, that people, still use a lot in the 80s and 90s and even the early 2000s before digital cameras and phones took over. It was a coating on a paper base, right? And then it was basically attached to a clear hardened gelatin. And then you were able to remove that paper base from it. So you see, it even says here gelatin dry plates. What this did is it made photography more available to amateurs. So in your chart, when you're talking about the significance, this is it. You do not have to be a professional photographer now. The average person couldn't afford all these cameras and things just yet, but it did start broadening its availability to more people. Eastman, uh, as we know, he founded the Eastman Kodak Company. He was a major philanthropist, and that means he donated money to causes that he thought were worthy and important. You can look up some of them if you wish. He was from New York and spent most of his life around Rochester, New York. So, our location, letter E, is the state of New York today. That red dot here is where Rochester is. So, you see, even though it's from New York, from us, it's a good 5 or so hour ride. If you go to Rochester, you can see graves of, I believe, Susan B. Anthony. You can find the graves of Frederick Douglass, right? Lots of history happening in Rochester. If you go to Rochester today, this is the Kodak Tower. This is the Kodak Center. And this is the George Eastman Museum. I would love to go there. That is my goal for this year, is to make it to Rochester. So don't forget, you're filling out the timeline, you're filling out your map, and you're filling out this chart. All right, once all is done, you can move on to the next thing for today.